you're having a good day, you've had food, water, everything you need to do, everything you need to get done. I am ever so slightly late to stream, so we are doing my live notification. Well, live. Spam. My Discord. Horse. Yep, horse. That is what I have typed verbatim. I want to get fast horse. I have kind of fast horses on Royal Realms. I want faster one. And we're gonna try and get into this here. I need to click play. That's what I need to do. My brain out here. And while I adore it, I'm gonna try and dial back streams a little bit. Currently, we're doing Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I'm gonna dial it back down a little bit more. I still enjoy doing a nice variety day, but I want to dial it down more. Oh, lovely lag. You can tell when Minecraft loads. Partly because you can see it reflected on my pale, pale skin. I am slowly trying to see more of the sun. Yes, okay, yes. That is everything I need to do. Is there anything else I need to do? I usually do it before stream. My brain ain't here today. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. We're fine. Is anyone on the server? Do I have to open the server? Have I made a error in this as I move us over, or is someone actually on? Someone's on! Great. Fantastic. We're gonna move on over. Doink. Someone has recently left the server. No, there's people on. There we go. Also, I fixed the overlay. Hello, Bumpkey! I fixed the overlay. It fits properly, as proper as I can get it. Fun fact, there is a tiny bit of area, just a tiny bit, up and below, up and above. So it cuts off a tiny bit at the top, cuts off a tiny bit at the bottom. But this is the closest I can get a perfect 1920 1080 to fit with Minecraft blocks. So ever so slight change. I literally moved it down a block and retook the screenshot, but we got that. And oh yes. They're in. I'm gonna make a live group. I want fast horse. I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to do that. I know I can get faster horse if we break the system with speed potions and jump boost potions. I don't even know how to make those. I don't have a clue. I do, however, keep on my computer a folder called Minecraft, which includes a guide on how to do all the potions. Will I ruin my capture if I dare add this? There's, here's... No, we're good. Okay. So what do we need is the question. What's going on here? I do need to get warts. That is a thing. My second half of rent found me a really cute pair of shoes and they arrive soon. Ooh. Hell yeah. I want to get some indoor slippers. Just like nice shoes. Like little nice slippers. I might be able to wear them outside if need be. Wear them on the deck. But just some slippers to wear inside. That'd be nice. I want to try and thrift those. Leaping is a rabbit foot. I do need that. What's swiftness? Swiftness is sugar? Okay. No problem. We can do all that. I do need blaze powder and wart to do that, however. I don't have to have my mic nearly as close anymore. I keep forgetting. I don't have to, and I specifically set it up so I can do this. I think I can literally have it all the way back here, and that's even better, because I'm not peeking my mic all the time. And it clears up a lot of my view, because it's a lot easier. So, warts and the blaze rods. That is what we need. That's not what we need to acquire. If I'm going into the Nether, without an elytra, without any transport, I can make saddles now. So we could ride around on Strider. I'm pretty sure you can craft saddles now. I don't play the more recent versions as much. Am I immediately forgotten how to make a fishing rod? Yes. Yes, I have. And how many sticks I have in my inventory as well, apparently. How does one? Also, I'm very glad to see REI works. JEI does not work if it's not inherent to the server. REI apparently does. I didn't even realize this. I didn't double check that. R. Now, I can only see that it exists in the game. I'm not allowed to check the recipe. I'm not allowed to check the recipes. I don't want cheat. I just wanted to see the recipe. I'm pretty. Can't you? Unless I'm absolutely wrong and I'm thinking of name tags. But I swore they added a recipe. Let me double check. Bamboo mosaic. No, it won't let me click anything else. Seattle. Minecraft saddle. Is it like 5 leather and an iron ingot? Crafting. 3 leather and an iron ingot. Okay. I have severely overestimated what I need. There we go. We slowly getting all the things, so I can do all the things that I need to do. It is way too hot in here. Usually I'm like wearing one of my hoodies for streams, or like it's too hot in here. Usually I take an hour break towards the end of the day, right around dinner time, before stream, so my room cools off. I was in the middle of playing Stardew. I've been playing Stardew all day because I'm procrastinating starting on recording. And I'm trying to figure out stuff with Passion SMP, so I can't get started on that yet, and I'm procrastinating other projects, so Stardew it was. In my defense, the night market was happening. That's all I should need going. I wanted blocks. Blocks may perhaps be of importance. I've been roaming around with my stone. It's a signature at this point. Might as well. Also, I did get progress done on Royal Realms. You want to see what the progress was? Yep. Yep, dig. Yep, dig. These 2 floors weren't here. I don't really know what I want to do. I don't want to get started on the thing. I'm gonna dig. I am going to diggy hole. And I did that for about an hour, and then I went... I'm gonna go play Stardew. I'm gonna go play Stardew. I got most of my other stuff done. I didn't sit down and read like I want to try and do every day. I got everything else done. That's fine. Now the question. I'm gonna have none of the Nether loaded. Voxy finally updated. Voxy lets me basically fake load in chunks. It's not actually there. It just creates an image like it is. And I've been using Distant Horizons, because that was the only thing that updated when Royal Realms, when we first started doing the season. Voxy finally updated. So I immediately yeeted Distant Horizons, because Voxy is infinitely better in every way. And so we are back to me having literally nothing loaded at all, and you get to see my whole 4 chunks of render distance. But it makes my game run good, so we're gonna stick with it. I like a little bit of aesthetics, but mostly function here. I'm trying to lean more into the aesthetics, but it's a whole... You are not a... You're kind of aesthetical. You're gonna get the stab though. Yep, go. There you go. There's a piggy battalion up there. And I don't think this is anywhere near a fortress. Hi. Wait, you have a spear? You can have a spear now? Okay. Hot take, I don't really understand the spears. I mean, I guess they're an item. They have some cool uses when it comes to farms. I think it was, Corrales on Hermitcraft used them with zombies to make an iron farm. That was his collection system. He had a bunch of zombies and minecarts hitting the iron golems with spears. How am I going? I'm just gonna explore. We're gonna explore. I'm gonna try and find the things I need. People probably have the things I need. I want to try and find the things I need. You know me for 2 minutes, you will immediately figure out if there's something that exists, I will do it by myself. To the best of my abilities. But usually I'll have someone there on the side that I'm DMing. It usually ends up being Pumpkin. Oh my god, this thing's happening! Oh my god! Pumpkin and Plush both get pretty much live updates on whatever is occurring in my gaming sphere, creation sphere. They get the random Hi, Gast! I still haven't made a bow. I should do that, but the thing is, I'm trying to live as story-driven as possible, and there's no reason why Mew would want a bow. Because canonically, according to the episodes I have out, Mew has never been to the Nether. He's just like, no, he has, but he hasn't interacted with Gas, as far as the current content is aware. In the recording running over to Ben, I did actually have to run from Gas, but that didn't make it in the video. So I have to run around going, would Mew actually want or do this? Can I do this yet? I really want to see if I could do a Hoglin farm, because I need leather, I need a stable food source. I could get pork troughs from that, I could set that up next to an auto smelter. Does Mew know what any of that means? No. Not a clue. I have my mind settled on Mew exists. He simply exists. He is not a thing. He is not a he's kind of a bit of a person. He's not really much of anything. He only agrees with being trans because he went, gender? What's that? Granted, created from Skulk. So, yeah. Gender ain't really there, he just a skelly boy. But this is when we start digging the goddamn walls. See if I can get anywhere. I'm at 103, which is very dangerous. My huge problem that I'm occurring and encountering being a very lore-driven story at the moment is the fact that I know a lot about the game and how I need to play the game and I should play the game, and Mew does not. Mew is fresh out of the cave. The only reason Mew even had an inclination to build an iron farm is he heard other people talking about it and went, yep, that's something I want. He doesn't even know what it does. He just has an idea like, it probably gives me iron, let's go do that. And I'm just gonna pretend that the efficient way that I've designed my own farm, he just kind of made up. I'm just gonna pretend that's what's occurring. Ooh, no. You suck. Not today, sir. Not today. I was angsting over the stream, by the way. Minutes before I'm getting ready, I'm like, I don't wanna... Do I just want to set up my new schedule, old schedule, whatever it is, go back to Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, early? No, we're sticking out this week. And then I had my tea, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to stream. This is gonna be so much fun. I can't wait. I gotta go stream. I gotta go get Flash Horse. How does one? One does not. Does one with Feather Falling 4 does? Yes, they do. 2 hearts for that. Okay. One with Eyesight does not, however. Oh, goodness. 2 hearts from that height? Gee, okay. Feather Falling 4, I know you were overpowered. I didn't think it's so much so. Oh, goodness sake. Okay, we're mapping this out. I am not dealing with the slow build of this. If you're 75, 78. Don't mind me, need numbers. 75... 178. 173? Or, no, that's not 73. I need the central. I need the bottom one down here. 53, 54. That's a 20 difference. 68. We're gonna go 58, because I think my numbers are off. I think that's math. I think that is. I usually do this with a graphing calculator to make it easier and I don't actually have to do anything, but it stands to reason. Okay, almost. I was off by a few. If you're going down the same amount, the difference between your Y and your bottom should be the amount over from your Z to your other Z. Yeah? Because you're going, it's the same amount across both down and to the side. So it's mostly correct.
On the nether roof, there's already a, what's it called? There's already an ice bowl path on the nether roof.
Where? Oh, yeah. You guys are above me! Hi!
You already started building up on the roof.
I don't think they can hear me. Oh no, they're in a closed one. I don't think they can hear me even though... Yeah. Oh well. This is what it is. I go do my thing. Even though I'm not sure where my thing is. I merely vibe. I exist. I don't know if they saw the numbers I put in and went, yep, let's go over there, but... They're trying to figure out how I got down here. Probably. I have no clue what's going on there. I wish wart spawned naturally. It does not. I should have gone over here. That's what I should have did to done.
I don't know how many views I have.
That's what I did to done. Nope.
Hey, what up? What you up to?
Where homestead of let me go. Where's... I know there's an end to this. Where is the end in question? Ah, hi! Thank you for greeting me. Hello, hello. That's a little bit of death. Not too much, though. Can we get a carrot? We get... Well, not a carrot, a mushroom. We get a mushroom! Mushroom for an improvement. That... You suck. So now if I find a strider... There's a strider boy over here, I see him on the minimap. I am not going to put something in my... I'm not going to put my tools there, because I'm going to lose my tools doing that. Where? Homestead of... Homestead... Where? What? What? Where? Buddy! You see? You see what I have for you! There goes my ride. I don't even know if I want to attempt to. Yes. Oh. Well. Yes, buddy! Over here, over here, over here, over here, over here. Come on. Come on. Oh, they didn't even mean to. Buddy! Every time that I am online with Mac and Ben over production, there is always a complete difference, a dichotomy between what they're doing and what I'm doing. Last time, they were dying to the warden while I was breeding turtles. This time, I am attempting my best to get a strider, and they accidentally spawned into the stronghold. Hey, buddy, 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 over here. Where are you going? What are you doing? Well, come back down here. Get down from there. What are you... Bro! I just need a ride. I need an Uber. Where are you going? Yes, fall off. Fall off. Thank you. Oh, because they just land... Because they walk on top of it. Okay. We go find a different one, is what we do here. Oh, yeah, Yeah, we're gonna do that. 'Cause... No. No. Can I have your leather? Thank you. Will they be scared of... Nah, no, they're not scared of the stick. I wish they could be. That'd be funny. Oh, now I see a bunch of striders of... There's a bunch of striders over there. I'm just gonna hope there's striders this way. Crossed the horrid lava lake. And our lava rivers. How? Yes. You guys come over here. Can any of you come this way? That'd be great. I want to take an allergy med before I started streaming. Of course, I forgot. Okay. Can any of you come over here? Thank you. I'm gonna use you. Okay. This boat has legs! We are going to run around and hope, pray as I might, wish as I will, that at some point, we come across a fortress, not stronghold, fortress. Theoretically, I go in the same direction long enough. We have to get across one, yeah? At some point, somewhere, there's gonna be one. Also, these guys are super fast. These guys are nice and fast. Do I got another boy hanging out with me now? Oh, kind of. You just toddle along. Beetle toddle right along. I'm not too concerned about him being fast. I just want to look around to see if we can find anything. Because of my normal mod packs on my SMP. No, I'm not making this a comparison thing. I usually play modded, so I have a bunch of ways to get blaze rods and nether wart, and it's not a locked thing to the fortress. So it's not a huge concern if I do or don't find it. I'm pretty sure our main portal, the Grove, that is, the west area of Passion SMP, our portal is above a blaze dungeon, like the normal Minecraft dungeon you'd expect, the little tiny mossy cobblestone rooms. Except it has a place spawner in it. And so we've been using that. I don't remember how in the world we got nether wart somewhere. There are plenty of structures that give it. It's not a hard thing to come across. Oh, thank you, Voxy. that is another funny thing to Voxy. I have it as the lowest rendering, by the way. If this was Distant Horizons, you would see abstract art. Not like, oh, that looks like Minecraft. That looks like funkily rendered in Minecraft. You can zoom in, and I can go pick out the individual magma blocks. This is its lowest rendering. Go, as fast as your little legs can go. No, you're not allowed to shoot little fireballs at me, Gasty Gast. You are not allowed. Oh, goodness. Can I attempt to abuse F3 for this? Kind of, not really. Yes, you can, but no, you can't. It'll probably be easier here. Which one is it? Under entities? No, it's not. Was it under now? Block entities 8. Because I have my render distance so low, and because we're playing an unmodded thing, it's gonna be a fair bit easier for me to pull this off. Simply because I don't have any other structures to worry about. There's not really much in the Nether aside from the occasional ruin portal. These bastions, which I'm not gonna bother with, we don't care about. And clearly my block entities aren't working unless they removed every single chest that was in this structure. Block entities should allow me to see where nearby chests are. No, there is a chest up there. So block entities ain't working. Why is that? 8? Yeah, there should be a chest up there. You should realize that there's a chest over there, but you have not, so I'm not gonna trust that. You ain't working like you intended. So we ain't bothering. We're just kind of roaming at this point. I kind of want to load in the world. That is what I spent part of the day doing as well. I just roam the seas, trying to get my general area and where I usually go to load in. Because Voxy and Distant Horizons don't use the same loading, so you have to redo it all again if you change between different things. Same thing with Bobby. So it takes a second. Unless you move over the files from one thing to another if you're still using the same thing. Or keep the old ones if you're switching back and forth and trying to figure out which one you want. But I for sure want Voxy. Distant Horizons was always a temporary until I could get Voxy. And to be fair, we're only... I think Thursday... Thursday? This Thursday will be 2 weeks into the server. So that didn't take too long for it to update. Not at all. I'm still waiting for some of my other mods that I like using, my client-side stuff, to update. I am still waiting for Blahaj of Undying. I don't think that's ever getting updated again, unfortunately. I wish it was. I don't think it is. And I think it'd have to be a lot of convincing to get Darius to add Blahaj Replushed. Because that has to be server-side. Because it's an added recipe. It's not just like a texture pack. I'm still waiting on camera overlay. There's a camera overlay I like using. It just adds a little wobble, adds a little movement when you're flying. It's really nice. It looks fantastic. I adore it. I really wish it updated. It is not so far. So we are waiting on that as well. I'm also trying to keep an eye on the compass. Perhaps that'll give me something. Perhaps, mayhaps. I just want to try and get somewhere. Zoom past. Zoomy zoom. Zoomy zoom. You know, when you're locking yourself out of getting Elytra, because lore purposes, when you're locking yourself out of getting an Elytra, suddenly you actually use all the other stuff in the game they keep adding. Like, why do they have this? I mean, I get it, but why do they have this? Suddenly I'm using it. Suddenly I'm using, like, all of it. And now I wish it was better. Hey, Warped Forest! Cool. Suddenly I wish... Hi. I wish to use all of it, because I kinda need to. For some reason, I want to really get whatever horse we end up with. Oh, cool. Whatever horse we end up with after this, I want to name the horse Neighbor. And every time my horse guy's wandering off, I just can go around yelling, "Where's my neighbor? Where's Neighbor?" And that is the only purpose for wanting it to name that. All my other horses have had rock names. Consistently, I will name my horses after rocks. If you do not know, I am a rock nerd. Not a absolutely huge one, but it is a slight obsession for hyperfixation. I have a book next to me about rocks, literally. This is a tiny version. I have a big one over there. But it's just... rock. All rock name. First horse I've gotten on this server so far is Mahogany. I didn't bother naming the second one. Third one that we've actually kept and stuck with, and I still have, is Ebony. And then I found Slate, and now Slate and Ebony. I need to see if there's a rock that's made from Slate and Ebony, or at least similar chemicals. But usually I just name it based off the coat. So I don't know what I'll name the next one. On the first world, which has only been referred to, and there is 1 or 2 videos on the main channel that showcase it. This was the first world when I started playing Java, or not Java, this was the first world I started playing on my computer, Minecraft on my computer, and it was when I was streaming as well. I started streaming on this world, or started recording and all that on this, and I didn't keep almost any of it, so the only things that exist of actual content of this world are some really old Twitter screenshots that I've kept. Hey, another fortress, finally! And it's stopping me from playing my Minecraft parodies. There we go. Thank you, Strider. You've done me good. You've saved me well. What we're gonna do is we're gonna horse hole him over here. I'm gonna horsey hole the Strider, so he can come back down and steal him to get back home. And I have a guaranteed ride. Yeah, I know. You're gonna be extra slow. I know, you poor thing. I know, you poor thing. I don't have OES up, that's a problem. Okay. Horsey hole the Strider. You should be bigger. No, you do have a 1-block hitbox. Okay. You gonna stay right there. I'll be back. Yeah. You stay right there. I will be back for you. But first world that only exists as TikToks and a couple screenshots I personally have. I had a collection of horses. Starting with Quartz, and I can't remember. I think it might have also been Ebony. I think it might have been Ebony yet again. Quartz and Ebony, which I believe made Smoky Quartz, was the next in the line. At some point, I accidentally breeded Quartz and Smoky Quartz together. So I have a hideous horse, because I refuse to kill him, named Chalcedony, that I have hidden in stable. They all have their own stables. I have him hidden away, and you have to know where he is. He's still in the same area as everybody else, but you have to know where he is to go over and see him. I can't remember what we ended up with as my go-to horse. I'd have to revisit the world to actually know for certain, because I do not remember. Well, I know I nicknamed them Twy because it was short for the actual full name, and I thought it was funny because My Little Pony. I am now searching. It would have been a T what? T. T-t-t. It's not Technite. I don't know what it would have been. I don't know. I know I nicknamed them Twy, and they were my go-to buddy. They were super fast horse by the end of it. I ended up with some super fast horses. What is the name? Why do I have random cross marks? I know I have random cross marks because I started cataloging what kind of rocks I had. And so I have cross marks of what rocks I had. That is why. That is exactly why. I honestly don't know. Why would I nickname you Twy? That's a very specific memory I have, and I don't know why. Where? I don't know. We're gonna look at that later. Once I get, like, my war and such, we're gonna visit. We can visit that at the end of stream. I want to do that. Just so I know. And take that happy gas, too. Oh, fantastic. Hey, buddy. I should do this, actually. Thank you. speed running over here for my potions, so I can make it best horse ever. Don't mind me. I have a bunch of stuff I don't necessarily want. Yeet. Yeet. Actually, I do want some soul sand. I don't have any of that yet. Yeet. Fantastic. Your looty, fantastic. Yes, okay. Hold on, good sir. Hold on, I'm reorganizing my inventory. I said hold on. You're being a butthead now. You're a very rude customer. Thank you. We already have a brewing stand. That's not a problem. That's not a concern. I have it. I'm actually using it for my kitchen chandelier. Every now and again, I like using blocks in unconventional ways, and I'm gonna try and do that as much as possible with this SMP, because it's completely vanilla as far as blocks and such go. So, ideally, I want to get as crazy as I can with the blocks that exist, especially because we have new ones. Even if I can't see the recipes, I use REI and JEI heavily to, like, look and, like, what kind of block do I want to build with today? Oh, you know, some acacia shelves. Let's see how we can use that. That's what I need for this thing that I want. Granite, yeah, we'll put those together. Actually, those two would go together. What would match those two? What would match those two? Probably red sandstone. Make a desert house. Little plain terracotta just to bring it in. Or terracotta, probably more so. And the acacia would be a kind of orangish outlier. You need something to match up with that, though, so probably actual, just normal sandstone, smooth sandstone. So you have a bit more of a cohesive palette with your main color and an accent for that main color. Your actual, a secondary, and then your actual accent. Welcome to Live Color Theory with Mew. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. Oh. That is why. Y'all getting wings. Y'all getting Red Bull. That's what I'm gonna ask. Y'all getting Red Bull, you getting your wings? You getting your wings? Get your wings. Gotta speak in code. I want to get a few extra blaze rods, so if I need more, we can do more potions. Ideally, I want to do a fair amount of potions. I'm gonna need... How annoying is it to get rabbit's foot? That's a concern. It's not as much. Dairy allowed it, but we're being secretive. Alright. So apparently, I didn't even know this. I'm glad I didn't go for it. We're not really supposed to be fighting the dragon, but Darius has allowed us, if we so wish, to go and get wings, because you don't have to kill the dragon to do that. Although we are trying to kill the dragon soonish here. I don't know if I'll participate in that or not. Because I have zero plans to collect wings anytime soon. I might just come as, like, emotional support. Honestly. I might come just to hang out for the fun of it. Be there for the vibes, and the vibes alone. Is there anything else you could do? I think it's literally... There's not anything you can really do with Blaze Worlds right now. Not vanilla, anyhow. I can think of some uses in modded, and why I would want to collect a bunch. I want to go for 16, just a good quarter stack to see us through. And then we gotta go find the Netherwort. I do need that. Swift new potions is my #1 concern. If I could get better jumping, I would love that, but... Swiftness is my #1 concern, which is easy enough because it's sugar. I would have thought the rabbit's foot would be swiftness, but... Granted, they didn't add leaping potions until recently. What else would be leaping? You know, goat horn would be a funny leaping potion. And it'd give them another use for you to collect them. Rabbit's foot makes so much more sense to me. Because it's not really... Rabbits kind of jump, but it's more hair that jumps. If you've seen a hare jump, it jumps. Hares are big boys. They're big boys. One of Muse Old's designs I tried making when he was still the pink mofo, that wasn't quite anything. For a little while, I was trying to make him more bunny, and I ended up on hare specifically, because there's a huge difference between these. Like, there's a huge difference between a whole bunch of bats. Muse design is specifically a fruit bat. That is specifically what his is inspired by. Which is very fitting considering all the ridiculous expressions I draw him with. Have you seen the shitposts of fruit bats? They are fantastic. I adore them. I keep finding them now, and I adore every last one of them. Yeah. That'll do. I hope they had a backup. I certainly hope. Welcome to the dichotomy of me being on this SMP when these two are on, because this consistently occurs every time without fail. I'm there building, and people are dying to the ward and doing their damnedest to escape. And then I'm just there building, farming crops, getting my blaze rods so I can take over the deep dark myself later. I like being efficient about things, and that means I don't go against things until I know I can, which ain't good for story at all, and it's why I'm procrastinating. Because I know what I need to do, and I just need to go do it, but I don't want to. Oh. Well, there they go. We'll see if they log back on, I don't know. And there they are again. Two more rods. And then we go get... That's probably, maybe, perhaps... I feel like we've managed to get to a fortress that hasn't been looted yet. Or 15. So hopefully there's wart. And I'll have to start growing a bunch. I'll collect some more soul sand warrior. I shouldn't have thrown that out. I mean, I do have a fair amount, but... it's probably in my best interest to get even more. Okay, 17. That is A-okay in my book. Dude. That probably isn't gonna actually keep him at bay, but you know, it is what it is. I just want to see something. I don't actually care, I just want to see. Alley-view? Alley-oop? Alley-oop, boop, boop, boop. That reference is probably at least 50 years old. Will we run with it? Okay. Mac was having a huge amount of trouble getting Wither Scully heads, so I just want to see. I just want to know if I can. Just for the bit. I just want to know. It was either Mac or Ben, or both of them. I can't remember. I don't have looting either. Yeah, I haven't gotten that yet. I just think it'd be really funny. It was all a dream. I'll blame the melatonin. Where? Where's your wart? Why aren't you growing warts? Hi, buddy. Why are you awkwardly rendered? Is it because I have my night vision on? Oh! You all suck very much, very much. I'm just trying to attempt to get your warts. That is all I want. That is the only reason I am here. Now. I was here for another reason, but I got that done. And that's just another spawner. Also unlooted, so we have a pretty good chance that I could find it, but I'm not seeing it. Not seeing anything that's useful to me. They don't really have a major building. They just kind of all exist. There is some buildings over here, but it's not really many. There's not a lot going on. It's overcrowded. Very, very overcrowded. We're fixing the overcrowding. There we go. Oh. And there goes Ben. I think the problem I've hit with Minecraft is not a lot of it's difficult to me anymore. It's mostly just the annoyance of day-to-day survival and the natural progression. But not much of anything else. I'm gonna be a nice person and leave half of it. It was all a dream. There's so many wither skellies here. Oh, there's even more. Okay, yeah. I'm stealing half yet again, which equals a full amount. I don't know why they're logging out and logging back in. I'm assuming maybe dying in the void breaks their VC. I don't know. I could not say the answer on that. Isn't there another one. Isn't there a trim that you get here? I felt like there was. I remember struggling with that for a little while on Passion SMP Season 1? There's something you get here that you can only get here. Because I spent a while going through chests to get it. I'll take diamonds, why not? Drop off some of that, so I can keep that. I don't need iron, despite spending majority of last episode and working towards an iron farm. I ended up going for a little bit of iron because I needed it for something or other. I needed to craft an extra anvil. I needed to craft yet another anvil. And I didn't have enough iron, so I went down to the mines and I immediately found a giant iron vein. And now I have a bunch of iron that I do not need anymore. So I'm just kind of sitting on a little throne of iron that does not make sense to any canon lore or story at all. Oh dear, the fun, the fun, the fun, the fun. Lots of fun. So much fun. Everybody loves the fun that we have here. We're all mad down here. Why not? Copper horse armor set, I don't care. I don't really care. It's not like I can really do a whole lot with that. Take that, why not? There's so many wither skellies up there. I don't want to let them despawn, but I have a feeling they're all above. Okay, yeah, they're kind of segmented out a lot. So, the protocol we pull with this is we build this first and foremost. And then we go, nah, come and get me if you can. And piss them all off, and then run and hide like a coward. Cool? Cool. Fantastic. It's already working. Because I am not going to let 1, the bones, 2, the coal, 3, the possibility of a wither skelly skull, despawn on me. That is not a wise choice in the slightest. No. Oh, no. Hello, idiots. Thank you. This is the worst time for a piglin to come down and join this fiasco. Thank you, very kindly. Oh, there's another. Looks like most of the bad boys that were up there, though. I can't even go and check. And there's a bunch over there, but that's fine by me now. I got, kind of, not really, what I wanted. No, that's good enough. Okay, what? Bumstead of... What? Is this it? Is this just a little loop that's gonna have nothing at the... It's gonna have nothing at the end. This was a very pointless... There's a word I want, I've lost it. As per usual. There's a name for that perfect shape. It's a perfect pattern, and I don't remember it. At all. I don't remember it. I wish I did. There's a perfect pattern. What is the name of the... Name of perfect repeating pattern? Because there's a name for it. No, there's the perfect pattern. I'm not looking for a pattern. Name of perfect repeating shape. Name of mathematical pattern. Found in shells. Fibonacci! It's the Fibonacci. That's what it is. Annoying perfect Fibonacci, probably. I don't know. That is not a Fibonacci. I stand corrected. Not in the slightest, not even close. And we're just gonna Mission Impossible our way out of here. AKA, we're gonna run away. Because if you run fast enough, they can't get you anyway. And a lot of the movie probably could have been solved like that. I'm saying as if I've watched it. But it's probably correct. Probably. Thank you, Wither, for the extra jump boost. Clearly, all I have to do is give my horses Withering. And then I'll get the jump boost potion that I want. It's horrible. Where was I stranded? Where was I? Way down below. Way down below. Way down here. Don't mind me. I'll be going now. Goodbye. Have a great day. Thank you. Oh. Yep. They're gonna ask me, chords for any portal? Overworld? Overworld or Nether? Overworld or Nether? Nether, okay. They're getting my portal chords. So I had to send them to Darius recently. Z200. There you go. They get my portal. Let me check. I need to find... Where was I over here? How do I get to my guy? Where's my boy? Where is my boy? I can't hear I can't hear my boy and not immediately get blasted with the "Father help" meme. Okay, definitely not going down that way because that is death. That is just death. Homestead up. You're at a bad time. Yeah. What? I had a thing. Where was the thing? Okay. I'm in the completely wrong area. I assume. Yes, I'm down here. Okay. Whoop. And then we, pop this block off. And then we do this. And we go, whoop. No? You're not allowed to jump up. Okay, thank you. There we go. And I want to throw that off. There we go. Fantastic. And very carefully, don't get rid of any important items. Oh, we have a fun little path to travel back through. I'm somewhere over here. Somewhere even closer, actually. I should be... Where? I don't know. Did I go under? I did go under. Oh, that's... what? Okay, we're just gonna do this. Oop. Portal. I forgot we have all these icons now. I keep forgetting that we have these. I better not... I'm gonna quickly... Okay. Good thing I checked. I just want to make sure. Oh. I'll do. That'll happen. I'm gonna make us run into a wall for a second. Just so I can safely make this. Portal. 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 This. Is there a portal? There is a portal. Save. Save. Thank you. Okay, that way. Now we have a beacon to know where in the world we're supposed to go. And we can sit back and watch the death messages roll in. Welcome to me playing on the server at any time. Because it seems no matter what server I'm on, I have a drastically different playstyle to literally everyone else. I do everything as efficiently as possible, as safely as possible, as crazily as possible. I don't want to fight a warden. Let me get a wither. Let me let the wither do the work for me. Oh. How much you want to bet that was a bed? I don't know if that was a self. Or on I don't know if that was a self-kill, I don't know if that was on purpose, or... I can't remember if Ben actually managed to convince Mac of that one. Or if, I don't know if that was sarcasm or real. One time we were on, and Mac was complaining that sleep wasn't working, that he couldn't sleep at all. And Ben was like, oh, go put your bed in the nether, it'll work. That'll work better, I love sleeping in the nether. And Mac went and did it. And, of course, died to intentional game design. And then complained about it. I don't know if that was sarcasm. I hope it was. I don't know. I do not know the extent of that. Is this the end of my road with this guy? Where am I? We could keep going. If we keep going around and down, we can pull this off still with this guy. I would love to keep this Strider alive as long as possible. I'm gonna name him Cherry. I think Cherry's fitting. He's a cute little name. He's a cutie pie. Or Ruby. Because they name everything rocks for some reason. Rocks and gems. Ruby ain't too bad. Jasper? It's more of a Jasper color. It's Jasper colors. He's gonna be a Jasper. Jasper's very fit. Even my language learning game, it's Lingo Legend. There are two different ways you could play the game. You could play the game RP. Oh my goodness. Oh, my heart. I haven't seen most of the baby mobs. You are so flippin' cute. You and your little old man tufts. Yeah, okay. Had to cough out all the cuteness. Ugh. Get refilled with hatred in my soul. Okay. The language learning game I use, Lingo Legend, it's absolutely fantastic. I strongly recommend it. I've been learning Japanese with it. There are two different ways you can play the game. There is an RPG mode, which is stereotypical. You play the card, in order to successfully use the card, do attack damage, heal yourself, whatever it is, you have to answer a question about your language, and do it correctly. Most of the time. Sometimes it lets you get away with it. But you have to answer about the language. There's also the farmstead. It's a lot like, homestead? Farmstead? Somethingscapes? Holidayscapes? Whatever it is. The very popular farming games. Literally any of the popular farming games, it's like that. And you do language lessons with the Nala, which are just llamas. They're adorable, I love them. And my Nalas, I currently have 15. You can get an upgrade. Usually you can only have 10. I have 15 because of an upgrade. And all of them are the children of my patriarch, Dwayne, who is a rock-type Nala, and it's literally picture boulders in the shape of a llama, and bring it to life. That is Dwayne. That is Dwayne, and also Boulder. And many of them, they currently only have one, I think. That's an interesting death message. I'm pretty sure, only have one that is not named after a rock. And it is Princess. Princess is one of Dwayne's oldest. Oh, no, I do have, Lila. Lila I refuse to get rid of, and is one of the originals that I was given. And I refuse to get rid of her, and my justification for her being there is she's the wine ant. I'm pretty sure Princess is the only one that is not, and Princess, he is a pink Nala with a grumpy face and a little fire emblem above his head. And he is damn adorable. I'm slowly loading up League of Legends so I can show off Princess. That's 300 away. Okay. We're gonna try our best here, but I think we're starting to hit the end of our time with Jasper. We may have to part ways. I love my light flickering. I think I need to change the light bulb. I want to try and stick with Jasper as long as possible. Is there a way over here? I can't tell because of chunks. I just don't know, and I have the hiccups apparently. There is more. Oh, there is. Maybe not really. Not. I see someone's portal over there. That's not what I need. Alright, well, we take the long way around. Let me get Princess up. Oh, come on, Light. Let me just show Princess off. Princess is adorable. That sucks. You can see the general shape. That's fine enough. Princess is a little grumpy butt. I already mentioned Boulder, Celestine, Comet, Diorite, Dwayne, of course, Geo, Jade, Kyanite, it's Lola, not Lila, Lola. Nougat, Obsidian, Princess, Rose Quartz, Ruby, and Thunder Egg. Thunder Egg's body type is literally thunder. It's just, the body type just looks like a little thunderstorm. Most of them are only kind of loosely what they're named after. Celestine's probably the closest one to what is actually. And Boulder. Jade is actually a slime body type, but it's green and it looks enough like Jade, I'm gonna stick with it. Geode actually does have the rock type body type. What is this called? Underminer. That is what the body type is called. Is this where I need to go? I don't know. I don't trust. I actually need patience in the game. I can't mindlessly drive and play on my phone. No, we can get through this way. This is fine. I know there's a lava lake underneath my portal, so I know there has to be some way for me to get as close as possible to my portal with Jasper. There has to be a way eventually. I do want to try and keep Jasper. Diorite is literally a cow one, but that's close enough to Diorite. Comet is actually just like a galaxy body. Celestine is pretty close to the actual body type being blue. It's meant to be like a little star. It's called Cloud9. It's like a little fluffy cloud in blue with a couple stars on it. Boulder is a boulder. Ruby is just red. She just looks like a red horse. Rose Quartz is just fluffy pink. And then Princess is just a normal base coat pink Nala. It's listed as bubblegum. And Obsidian is supposed to be a body type called So Raven. I want to see what this is. I want to see. Has you been looted? I assume no. Oh! Not bad. I will take. Thank you. They are easy to craft now. I can finally do floors of lodestone! I've wanted to do that for ages, but they're so expensive. I'm like, nah. Nah. I won't do that. That'd be a huge flex, but I won't. Oh, Nougat's icy. So kind of, but not really. Kyanite is also just blue. I love Kyanite, but I kind of want to get different Nala. I want them to kind of embody what they are. I refuse to get rid of Princess, though. Princess gets to stay. I have formed an emotional attachment to Princess. And Dwayne. I refuse to get rid of Dwayne. Absolutely. is my favorite Nala. You can actually mark a Nala as your favorite, and you can lock them so you don't accidentally sell them. I have Dwayne locked, loaded, and favorited. He is the favorite. He is the patriarch. Okay, where do I need to pass through here? There's a tiny spot over here, kind of, not really. It looks like there's a very tiny one there. It's like it's just on the other side. It's almost there, but not quite. Oh no, that's 700 away now. Jeez. Theoretically, I can climb over this and go back in. But they really sink and they're really slow. So, nope, this is fine. This is fine. You got this, Jasper! Oh, I gotta be careful about fall damage with him. Oh dear. No, we can go all the way over here. That's fine. This is fine. Can I make him go faster here? Kind of. Not really. But kind of. Kind. A little bit. Just a little bit faster. He's just a little bit faster. Tiniest bit. Come on, Jasper, you got it. You got this, buddy. You got this, buddy, old pal. Can we move just a tiny bit faster? Just ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. I would appreciate it, buddy. I would. Why is there a gas right here? Did it just go under the lava? Or did it disappear? Did it go under lava? What just occurred there? Because he touched the lava and then dipped. I'm just gonna keep going, like, that's okay. We run. We run. I don't want to deal with it. I think he just despawned the moment he touched the lava, because as far as I'm aware, it is perfectly fine for gas to touch lava. I'm pretty sure they just rub it off like, yeah, that's fine. Hey, we're back here! We're back where I watched that one guy just die. Very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. Oh, come on. You slow little mofo! You're doing so well. No, 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 no. As long as you don't hurt Jasper. Come on. This is the slowest race in history. This is the slowest. No. What is happening here? Is the soul sand? It just makes me just short enough that he can reach. Okay. Goodbye. Have a great time. Bye-bye. How are we only an hour in the stream? How? Okay. Okay. I just want to get Jasper home. Can I even go home that way? Yes, that's fine. I assume. I assume that to be true. I hope. I really hope. It isn't. Hey guys, how you doing? How you getting? Don't mind me, I just found a dead end over there. Yep, it was a cul-de-sac. We were just trying to find a shortcut through to the other highway, but no, that was a cul-de-sac. That's what you get for shortcutting, huh? Yeah, okay, have a nice day. Have a nice day. Okay, we keep going. We keep trying, we keep moving. We keep moving right along. 'Cause this takes forever. No one has loaded this? This isn't even that far. What do you mean no one has loaded this? That lava freshly dropped. Freshly dropped. How far am I gonna have to go around just so I can get to my port with Jasper? I didn't bring a lead. I didn't bring anything that would make me bring Jasper along. I don't want to leave Jasper behind. This is an emotional attachment yet again. What do babies? Alright. Oh no. Y'all still struggling? Y'all still stuck in the nether? Y'all still stuck? Are you guys okay? It's been like a half. There's another fortress right here. It's been like a. Shut up, Mom. Alright. It is what it is. I still have like 600. The absolute dichotomy. I still can't get over it. Because their recording is probably crazy as hell, starving, living off of nothing, dying all the time. And I'm here trying to make sure my emotional support animal gets home. And that's all we've done! I went to a structure, we roamed around a while, then I finally got to a structure, got my blaze rods while they were dying in the void, got my warts, and then tried to take my emotional support animal home. That is what has happened today. Yep. Oh, you got a spear! Hi, buddy. You're cool. You're very cool. Nice. Oh, dear. I wish so much luck. The past several times I have made nether hubs for the Passion SMP and such. I ended up making it above ground, above on the bedrock in Season 1 of Passion SMP. Season 2, we had a bunch of problems with actually trying to get to any of the biomes in the nether, so we ended up building it high up, but still in the nether hub. And then Season 3, I have not taken it over, somebody else is doing that. But Season 2 and 3, I had my lovely hammers to do that. There's a reason Season 1, when we didn't have hammers, we didn't have a bunch of modded stuff, that I built it above the bedrock. And it's because it is so freaking annoying to mine blackstone and basalt. Even if you have an efficiency 5 netherite pickaxe, it takes as long as glass. Netherrack? Brr, done. You might as well be mining dirt with a shovel. But the moment you hit basalt, you might as well be mining obsidian with an unenchanted pick. I swear. Well, not quite that. But you might as well be mining obsidian. It is the same. It is so slow for having a maxed pickaxe. If you have a maxed pickaxe, if I have a maxed pickaxe, I should be able to mine things instantly or almost instantly. I can understand some things taking longer if they're a tougher block, but glass should not take nearly as long as it does. 100%. And that is a consistent complaint I'm seeing more and more and more. Because I don't even think with a beacon you mine glass fast. I don't think so. You don't even really need... You kind of want a beacon for deep slate. You don't need a beacon for stone at all anymore. It's just fine as it is. Okay, we're just about my portal. It's up there above me. So, I think we're gonna one. I will eventually come back here and do something proper for him. Oh, he doesn't jump. He just is. You poor thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little hidey hole right here for our boy. Jasper, come here. Get in your spot. And then we can remember right underneath the waypoint is our Jasper. And it is our baby boy. And we're just gonna protect him. We're gonna keep him nice and safe, as safely as we can. And then we're gonna take worry. Can I like perfectly orient where I want this? I would adore that actually if I can. one more block back. Yeah? Yeah. I'm gonna want more room later. We're gonna go another block back to do this. Oh, that is wrong. There we go. I can't see anything because of this. What? Oh, yes. It's late in the night. That's when everybody starts logging in. They finally have time to log in. What? Oh, yes. Yes. Right. Dot. Yes, okay. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, okay, cool. I simply wish to build a nice little staircase all the way up to my portal, if it so feels like letting me. That would be required, that would be desired. Just mayhaps perhaps, and I'll come back and fill in that those chunks another day. Because I am not forcing the stream and SMP to load that when there are several other people on. I had no problem running 32 chunks to load everything in when I was by myself, not streaming, not even recording. But I don't think it's gonna behave as well if I try and do that right now. I do not think that will be the case. I do not think. I don't think, but I don't think that would work out too well. Oh, there we are. Almost. Can this line up about as I want? Yes, it... Just needed to have a good old jump scare, apparently. I was due for one. Thank you so much, Minecraft. You are a dream. I'm gonna do that, because I know I will be spam jumping this and accidentally fall down there. Oh, I can see my little offhand. I don't want that. I want my body. I want to see my body. Okay. Oh, it's blue. Oh, I've been out in the red. It's so blue. Wait. Okay, little less blue. That's fine. Don't I need glowstone? Don't I need... Isn't that what I need? Isn't that what I need to make the potion effect stronger? Isn't that what I need? Yes, yes it is. I need glowstone for strong... I need to go back in. We gonna drop off stuff, and then we go back in. So I can't be running around with this much stuff in my inventory. We're gonna grow... We'll go 16. I don't know what to do with lodestones right now, but I kind of want to keep them anyway. Dried gas is gonna go in here because reasons. This is gonna go in here. Dwayman. This is also gear. Leather. And then all that goes over there. And where have I put the raw meat? Is actual meat. I don't have a okay. We're gonna separate the raw meat. Because I am not a heathen. And temporary, this gets put down here. We'll make it look pretty later. Technically, Mew isn't supposed to allow it. Technically, Mew can't word. Technically, canonically, Mew cannot have another word yet, so... We're not gonna worry about that. This is for me, the guy behind the screen. Not for Mew, actually. I just want to go fast to places so I don't have to take as long. Okay, let's go get our stupid glowstone. We'll pick it up with Silk Touch first, so I can actually keep some of it, and I just destroy it when I need it. Because it's not a whole lot you do want, just normal glowstone. Or the glowstone dust, I should say. Well, okay, there's some up there. That is not all too safe. I'd feel that's not too safe either. I'd feel far more confident just getting some up here, actually. If you so... If you could so do so, thank you. Hands down, best place to find it. Just going to little cracks and crevices in the nether. And finding where the glowstone touches the floor. That's the best feeling. Because you don't have to go in any danger. And it usually doesn't take that long to find either. All you have to do is just keep going up. And not fall into a ravine. 2 simple steps, really. Watch where you looking. Watch where you stepping. Watch where you look step. Go up. That's it. That's all you need to do. Can you tell I hate roguelikes? Can you tell I don't like dying in my video games? Alright, stone, goodbye. I acquiesce. But a few. We're gonna go for a couple just in case. Thank you, Picky. Thank you, Picky Pick. We're gonna throw you in here, because why not? I do have the glass. I got a bunch of glass recently, because I was thinking about doing this thing, and I'm not sure if I want to do that thing. So I haven't done anything. Welcome to ADHD. Marvelous thing, ain't it? Brain too big and you don't do a damn thing. Boink. Am I allowed? Yes. Fantastic. Can't do all of that, I don't think. I can do most of that. There we go. I can do 18! And then we need this. I should actually probably start by putting some in there. Did no. I know where there's more. There are still like 2 or 3 brewing stands sitting at the village that I'm supposed to be at war with, so it's perfectly fine for me to go steal. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just gonna pretend like the cleric took them all or something. I don't know. I got so peeved the other day, because when I was recording to get, like, the cleric his brewing stand, I'm like, when I first went over this village, the first cleric house I went into, it didn't have a brewing stand in it. So I assumed all of them had been taken, because people had already looted this village and gone through here before me. And I walked all the way across the world. I walked all the way over here to get a brewing stand. And then I went over to there to get a clip of, like, showing there's no brewing stand there and the cleric took it. And the first house I looked into, there's a brewing stand. Next house I looked into, there's a brewing stand. It's only the 3rd house that does not have one. So we're going to take the other 2. And I'm going to use them to decorate my house. And make it look all pretty and actually useful. And maybe I'll make some more... It occurs to me I probably could have crafted this. I absolutely could have crafted this. I'm gonna be cheap. We're gonna be cheap about it. Also, this is the epitome of Minecraft. This right here is the epitome of Minecraft. And you cannot change my mind. That... Yep. Yep, that is. That is. I guess numbers. Yep, numbers. Next time someone puts numbers in the chat, I'm just gonna be like, alright, sending SWAT to your location. Or sending the crew. Sending the FBI. Whatever it may be. Dispatch to your location. What? And take it out. Doink. What the fuck? I felt like there was an ant crawling over me, but there is nothing. Not a thing. Oh, I didn't even load all that. I didn't do that. I did not do that. Oh well. Alright, Slate. Yeah, I know. Time to go home. Let's go. This is also such an interesting generation to me. This is just so fascinating. Don't you love Minecraft? Don't you love the Twin Hills? This is American folklore in a nutshell. This is the Hatburrs or whatever those guys were. The McFields, whatever the two families were. This is the place. This is every cartoon depiction of those two families. Verbatim. Why, what is with the random juts of hill, by the way? What has happened here? This is the setup for a Skyrim bandit camp, and they're gonna put a bunch of walls in between these natural hills, and then put a couple rock traps and pretend like that's good enough. But because the physics are so broken, it will be good enough. Because all you have to do is walk 1 foot into a rock, and you are dead. You are death. You are gone. Is it an important time to mention we have decided Skyrim for Thursday? Colt Lamb's kind of falling off. I'm getting tired of it. I'm hitting a blockade with it because I chose super hard survival mode, and it's a butthead. Skyrim is a butthead, but it's a butthead I understand and can actually play. And I'm actually decent at. Colt Lamb, no, I do not typically play games like Colt Lamb. I like the colony aspect. I'm good at that until people start dying on me because I can't get more followers because I can't finish the dungeons. So, on the Discord, I had pulled asking, hey, Colt Lamb's kind of falling off. Do we want to do Amalgamation? Or do we want to do the Skyrims? Amalgamation would have been probably challenges or doing a Forever World. And then Skyrim would have been a Twitch exclusive, like Colt Lamb was. It'd only be saved as VODs over on Twitch. Over here on Twitch. And I probably wouldn't do much of anything else with it. It'd just be chill, relax kind of day. And the vote decided Skyrim. So we're gonna go back to my lovely Skyrim Legendary Survival, which is oh so much different from my Colt Lamb Super Hard Survival. It genuinely is though. I've been playing a save for a while with a loosely used A to Z challenge, which just means I've been killing the NPCs in alphabetical order. Which doesn't sound like a lot until you remember the final boss of the game. His name is Alduin. Guess who I have next? Make a magical guess. And I don't want to do it because I hate Delphine. Delphine is far too annoying. The only you can skip the major questline. You can skip a lot of it. I have not even killed the main dragon. I haven't told the old Bargrove anything about the dragons coming back. He don't know anything. He's sitting there up in his tower, completely unaware that an entire town just south of where he is, just south of his border, I think it might be in his border actually, got decimated by a dragon that's supposed to be dead. And so, you can actually skip most of the main questline if you break into the Thalmor Embassy using a lovely wooden plate, because Skyrim. You can bash a wooden plate into their front gate, and then use a kettle to jump over their second wall, because there is a wall you usually have to go in. They won't let you go in, it's locked, you can't go in. You can use a kettle to break physics and jump over their walls, go into the place you're not supposed to go to for a hell of a long time, because you haven't done any of the quests yet, and skip half the quest line by grabbing a book. Grab a book. He'll tell you, like, oh, yeah, you've done all these quests, you got the book, so go talk to the rat guy in the caves, and then bring him over to Delphine, which kind of breaks things, because Delphine has unlocked the room you need to go into, so you have to kind of console command and break everything. But it's fine. It's fine. So, yeah, I flat out, I skipped most of it. One, because I just, for a little while, was watching a bunch of speedrunning and challenge videos of Skyrim, so I know a fair amount about different hacks and cheats in the game that you can do. And two, where did I... Here. And 2, I just hate Delphine that much. I don't want to deal with her. I do not want to deal with her. It's occurred to me I never did get those rabbit feet. What are the chances of getting rabbit feet? What is this? Minecraft rabbit foot? And is there a place I can for sure get it? Mob loot cat gifts? Each rabbit has a 10% chance of dropping rabbit's foot when killed by a player. This chance can be increased by 3% per level using a sword enchanted with looting, so up to 19%. A fox sometimes spawns with a rabbit's foot in its mouth, which always drops upon death. Alternatively, the player can also drop a food item, which causes a fox to drop the rabbit's foot. A tamed cat has a 70% chance of giving the player a gift when the player wakes up from a bed, and the gift has a 16.13% chance to be a rabbit's foot. Which will give us a potion of leaping. Do foxes despawn when they are spawned in with something? I would assume no. And I'm going to base everything we're about to do on this assumption. We are going on a trip on our favorite horsey ship, roaming through the lands. Little crafters. That was very half-assed, and I do apologize. I'm usually much better at my ad-libbing. Yeah, we're doing this. I went mining one day on Call of Grazier, and I saw a fox with a rabbit foot, and I commented on it. I was like, oh, what's the chances of that? How'd you get that, buddy? That's pretty lucky. What if he's still there? What if he is still there? If I can even get one potion. I need gunpowder, too, for splash potions. I hope I have gunpowder. I hope I do. This is about to be very interesting if I don't. This is about to be pretty interesting. All of this just so I can make a extra speedy, extra good baby horse. And it's not even a guarantee it will either. What do I need to breed horses? I need to check that. Because I don't remember. Minecraft, horse... Horsey, do you need apples? It's either apples or golden carrots or something. Breeding. Golden apples. Or golden carrots. Okay, golden apples or carrots. Lovely, lovely. I can make golden apples, that's fine. I can make golden carrots. That's cheaper, ain't it? Isn't that cheaper? I swore it was. One of them uses... Golden apples uses bars. Doesn't golden carrots only use nuggets? Does it use nuggets? Nuggets. Crafting. It does use nuggets. Yes, we could do that. I have a bunch of carrots from the XP farm because it's made with zombies. And I've killed a lot of zombies. I spent a day or two killing... How many zombies have I killed? Wait, how many? Well, 3,460. Lovely. I've killed a heckin' lot of zombies. And they've dropped, in total, about half a stack of carrots and potatoes. I've left some of which in the farm. However, I've taken a good chunk of. I've taken at least like a good 80% of. So, we can easily do that. There's another stat of like the health. I don't know if making a making a regen? How do you make a regen? If I'm already getting all the other stats, I might as well attempt to do this. Or would you have to golden apple that? What would give you extra hearts? Because the only thing I can think of is golden apple. I don't think there is a potion that gives you extra hearts, because that'd be hella abused if it did, for one. I think it's only an enchanted golden apple, right? I think that's the only thing, because the normal golden apple only gives you regen and something else for a very short amount of time. And then it's the enchanted golden apple that gets the fire aspect and extra hearts. Yeah, we can do regen, but that's not what we want. Okay, that's fine. The hearts will be what they are. That's not too big of a deal. As long as I'm speedy and jumpy, we are fine. We are good. We are set. We are good to go. Now, let's see if I can remember the correct mountainside that I saw this bad boy on. I think this was running back when I was trying to... I died to a creeper explosion. I think this was running back to get my stuff. Not this mountainside, that mountainside. Because I was running straight for my death. It was up here on this mountainside that I saw a fox. And I believe there's some sweet berries nearby, so I don't have to kill a fox, I can just exchange for the rabbit foot. Are you still over here, bro? It was right around here. But I don't think it's still here. I'm not sure if those are wolves or foxes on the minimap. I think that's a wolf. No, that's a fox. That's a fox. So this fox over here... There's a fox up there, and it's the exact same color as the one I actually saw. You have it! You have it! You're actually here! Oh my... The quickest horse hole I will ever make in my life. Get in. Get in. Get in. I cannot lose this fella. Thank you. Slate, admittedly, I can use you. I don't want to lose this fox. Okay. This is powdered snow. Powders. What can I trade? What can I trade? What can I trade? What can I trade? Will you accept... I know there's only so many items. What do you take? Would you take a piece of steak? Would you take a steak? Would you take a steak? Where'd you go? That's a different fox. What do you have in your mouth, though? You're the... Or are you the one I want? Oh, that's rabbit hide. What do you have? You both have rabbit hide. You suck. And the other guy didn't have anything, right? No, he doesn't have anything. There's another fox up here. I'm gonna check just in case. Kind of crazy I remember that detail, but... Oh, that's chicken. Hey, you're holding the chicken. Did you drop rabbit hide over here? Yes, you dropped the rabbit hide. Thanks, stars. Someone is sleeping all the time. Half the people on the server do like to sleep all the time, the other half I find don't. And I find that very interesting. You have nothing. I found someone's trail. You have also hide. Okay. So none. Not one. Not a single one of you has what I want. So, a couple options. We go home, accept defeat. 2, we get killing. Just gonna look up the wiki for no particular reason. Minecraft, do you bit? Forested biomes as well as deserts. Many snowy and forested biomes, so it doesn't really matter. They just spawn in a lot of places. Snowy plains, ice spikes, snowy slopes, grove, so they can spawn here. Snowy taiga, flower forest, meadow, desert, cherry grove, frozen river, snowy beach, frozen ocean, deep frozen ocean. Why do they spawn in the ocean? Jagged peaks, frozen peaks, old growth pine taiga, old growth spruce taiga. Okay. So, theoretically, if I kill 10, I will have 1 rabbit foot. because it's a 10% chance, depending on my given luck on a given day. We could take a second to attempt to get me looting, but that's going to be a absolute butthead of an enchant to get. Which would, if I do get it, would bring us up to almost 20% chance. But again, butthead to get. It'd take longer to get looting than it would for me to get a rabbit foot. Chances are. I don't have a for sure way that I know of, no trick or anything to get looting. There's a trick to feather falling, there's a trick to some of them. Sometimes it's easier to just make a sword, sometimes it's easier just to get a book. Sometimes it's easier to remove the bookshelves. It just depends on what you're trying to go for and what you're trying to do, and how you're trying to do it, and how far along you are in trying to do it. At this point, I would have to make an additional sword and spend time enchanting it. We are already at level 26, but it does still take like 5 minutes of waiting at the farm, and that's if it's already going. I have to wait for it to start collecting first. To get from 27 to 30. So, that'd take a while, and we're already in like what I want to be the last 20 minutes of stream. Ideally, we're in the last 20 minutes here. Probably more like last 10. So I want to try and end this around 9 o'clock my time, and we are 10 minutes from right now.
Yo.
There's a person behind me.
Yo, what's up? You streaming?
Hello
right?
there.
I saw the group thing. Yo, I did
Let me
not
turn you
realize
up,
had
hold on.
such a big
Oh no, I have
base.
you turned off. Hi. Hello.
So what are you doing swimming in the ocean on a horse?
I was trying to run over because I thought I remembered a foxwood a rabbit's foot. It did not. And I didn't feel like getting my boat, and it took too long to get there by walking, so horse it is. And
Wait, what's that arrow in the ocean, by the way?
yeah?
It's like a stone arrow pointing down. What is that?
Oh, that goes down to one of my mine shafts, and that goes down straight to the ancient city as well.
It's kind of weird that there's an ancient city under the ocean. Like they're...
It's
to be
partly
under
under the
this
ocean,
giant
it's mostly under that place. Under that mountain. I'm gonna head out to a meadow if you want to steal my extra horse. And follow along. Otherwise, I'm sitting in a group. Unless you just stop by for something or other.
I was just on my way to somewhere else to go caving. Because there's like
Hmm.
stuff there.
There's a big cave up there that I haven't explored. Huge thing, you can't miss
Like,
it.
is it like a...
I
like
don't know how
opening,
deep it
or, like-
goes. There is another one further up towards where I'm heading that is even deeper. And I know it goes deeper to Deep Slate-ish.
Alright, well, I'll try remembering that, although I don't really know where it is, but...
Hmm.
I just know it's in that
Literally
area.
straight north. You head straight this direction, you'll see both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, what theme do you have? I totally forgot.
Mostly basic setup, because I'm keeping myself story limited, so if you can't, then I kinda can't. Otherwise, I would have my iron farm, and I'd probably be figuring out pork chop farm right now with Hogglins, so I can get some leather.
Huh.
But there's the makings
Wait.
of a iron farm down here. Probably took you in the worst direction ever.
Pretty cool castle, though.
Iron farm, if you want to free cam out, there is a little bit of cobblestone down below out there in the ocean, which will be a villager platform, because that is the best way to do my current design. I'm hoping this design still works on this version. It better, unless otherwise I'm gonna have to remake a lot of this.
Wait, and you didn't check if it did?
No, I'm just gonna wing it. If it doesn't, then that's a problem for me to solve. So, content.
Yeah, I guess.
And I don't imagine anything would change that would change this design at all. There's nothing in the versions that should change extremely how the iron's golems spawn. So theoretically, the same dimensions and concepts apply. If I break these, you can see... You lean over the edge here, you can see the cobblestone down there. So underneath that is where I will have to put the villagers. And that spawn platform is at the very top edge of their hitbox. So the moment they spawn in, they get shot up out of the villagers' detection range, which allows it to spawn a new golem as fast as possible, aka unlimited iron rates. Combine that with multiple farms, you just have infinite iron, pretty much. And that's an empty room. Some of these are just empty rooms.
Seems like it'd be like a little closet room.
Yeah. So more to be had,
gonna...
but I am story limited.
I think I looked at your base sheeting, and this isn't part of it, right? Or is this part of it?
This is mostly starter base. I'm gonna try and make it more magically themed, but I am struggling there, so I'm gonna have to do a lot of concept art. That might be what I will end up working on this week, actually. So I need to do Passion SMP first.
Okay.
Alright, I got a rabbit's foot to go get.
Yeah.
So I can have fast horse that Mew doesn't have to worry about. Unless at some point I manage to write in somehow that I have Slay Ebony and whatever their kid shall be. I don't know. Also, fair warning, you guys probably heard him better than I could. In order to actually run the stream as well as I can, I have really sensitive little ears. So for you guys to be able to hear music, I have to turn on my own sounds down low, which is horrid when I need other things to be loud. And if I do have something that changes the actual, like, normal applications around, it does not work for you guys, however. Because it also turns it down for you. It doesn't just turn it down for me, it turns it down for you. So, this is the compromise I have, and I currently do not have a way to kind of fix. Because I have everything turned up as high as I possibly can. I guess the only way to really fix that, it would be to go to the absolute extreme. Turn down YouTube, turn up my sounds. Or, turn down YouTube, have it at max for you guys, and then turn down my sounds. Which would make, in contrast, everything else louder. If I know my things correct, I think that... Would that work? Let's find out. We're gonna turn this up. That is not the correct button. That was my pause button. Also, said music I'm referring to is live music. They do not save to VODs. It's gonna be really quiet for a second. I'm gonna turn it up. Which should... I think do what I want it to do. Because now you guys have it loud, but now Minecraft should be louder for me while the music is still quiet. I'm just gonna have to remember that I changed that when I do want to blast music. There's a bunny up here. Hello, good sir. Doesn't quite matter what I kill you with, does it? No. It does not have a particular order. Because neither of them have looting, so I might as well use the axe. That is gonna be faster. Thank you, blessed soul, for sleeping through the night. Okay. I just need a wabbit. It's wabbit season. And Minecraft does not have no ducks or elmers to be confuddled with. That reference is also probably old. Jeez. I watch more classic media than I do current. Far more, and I have a watch list of just classic media to catch up on, because I watched it as a little kid who couldn't appreciate the difference between current and classic media, and now I go back and go, oh, I miss childhood. I miss the good shows where it wasn't a musical every 2 seconds. Fun fact, I did not know what musicals were, because I just assumed, you know, Disney movies were normal movies. So anytime I saw a musical, the first musical I saw was Grease, and I didn't know it was a musical because my Disney movies would just bolt out in song all the time. So I watched Grease. I'm like, yeah, this is a normal movie. This is a movie. We have the movie version of the play. The popular one that you immediately think of, we have that one. And it's so interesting to see the difference. You can very particularly see this difference. Secret of Nim. N-I-M-H. There's the first one, and it's a beautifully well-written movie. It's fantastic. Beautiful characters, beautiful story, very compelling, fantastic movie. The second one, every 2 seconds they break into song for no particular reason. You need to transition from this place to the next and start adventuring around? Time to break into song. You and this new person just met? Time to break into song. You reunited with your brother who's evil now? Time to break into song about it. And it is such a ridiculous difference between the two. Also, suddenly they're very obsessed with making sure all the anthropomorphic animals have clothes. Even though it's very clear that the storyline is focused on them and the fact that they are animals. No. Make sure that rat has pants. You gotta make sure. And every slightly feminine character has to have some sort of skirt. It must be so. Oh, you're a baby one, aren't you? Yeah, I don't even want to. Are you all baby version? Are you all baby variants? Because you're not gonna drop anything. I need the foot. Yeah, you were all baby variants. I just need to be calm and collected about this. There we go. I got a rabbit head. Salt and pepper rabbit head. That's adorable. That's a very cute name. I almost feel bad because I just need faster horse. I need better horse. You don't drop anything, right? Yeah. Guess what I thought. This place crossed off. Where we go to next? Where can I go? Where can I go? I guess the forest. I don't have a better place to go. There's a meadow over there. We're gonna go over there. We gotta try to get what I need to get. I love how the baby rabbits, I have a texture pack that does change them so their eyes are on the side instead of being on the front because it looks freaking weird. I want their eyes on the side, please, and thank you. I'm gonna make a natural bridge over here. This is very annoying. I have to go 200 blocks in the wrong direction in order to get around this river. I'm gonna have to come through here and make a bunch of bridges because I'm gonna hate this so much. I'm going to make a direct path all the way over to spawn. That's gonna absolutely end up being a stream thing because there's no reason for you to have that. But I need that. I need to be able to travel to the places I want to travel to, and if I have a direct path to spawn, it makes it infinitely easier for me to go literally to anybody else. Literally anyone else. As long as I can get to spawn, I can probably get to most people. There's a few outliers there, but in large part, that'd help out. Okay, I think there's actually a difference in the icon between adult and baby rabbits. No, you just happen to have an icon. You're a baby one. What? You're also a baby. You're also a baby. Why are they all babies? I need the drops. I've literally only gotten to kill 2. I need a rabbit foot. You suck. You suck. You suck. You suck. Oh. 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 Nice. Cool. There's little rabbits. There's a bunch of rabbits. Oh, there's a bunch of rabbits. Because this is a meadow. Baby rabbit, baby rabbit, baby rabbit. Where are the adults? Where are your parents? I'm trying to make more Batman, please and thank you. Where? Baby. They're all babies. Why are they? Why is every single one of the rabbits I come across babies? I don't need babies. We do not want the babies. I need the drops. And I'm just trying to get as many spawns as possible. If I move around often enough, hopefully, eventually, we will start to get some rabbits to spawn. And if I'm moving around often enough, and I'm making a lot of rabbits spawn, it's not too much different than having an actual rabbit farm. Ideally, that is the case. But this may end up getting put off. I'm gonna have to do it as an off-camera thing, because, oh my stars. Do I actually need to make a rabbit farm? Is this something I actually need to do just so I can get the horse I want? Because if I'm gonna go the mile to get swiftness potions and all of this, I might as well take the extra mile, hit the store on the way back, and get some frickin' jump potions. Because 3 blocks is not a good jump. It's a decent jump height for a horse. It should be better. Ideally, he's at least jumping 4. He's only at 3. My ideal horse, if I fail and I don't hit the max bar for jump, he can still make a 2-block jump. That is my ideal horse. If I muck up the jump, he can still jump pretty well. Oh hey, this is the start. I don't need to be here. I kind of want to be around this area, but I don't need to be here. We want to go around all the way this way because there's a flower forest over there. And they can supposedly spawn in flower forest. If not, there's probably... Are you meadows? You're all plains. How are you all plains? There's a meadow over there. How did I miss you? I missed you extremely. There's also windswept gravelly hills. I know llamas spawn over there. Do rabbits? Do rabbits? Somehow I have managed to miss all of these snowy plains, the snowy areas. Probably because I'm not the one owning the seed, except for once. For some reason, it's a consistent problem I have making seeds. If I dare open a Minecraft world, at least half the time, if not more, I will get a winter seed. I will get heavy snows. And I still remember the horror, the terribleness of Passion SMP Season 1 that I should have refreshed and I didn't. I really should have done that. I didn't do that. I should have done that, didn't. For those who missed it, we had a 1,000 diameter snowy seed. And it was nothing but snow. Oh, you guys got bad horses. Y'all don't got good horses. What's going on here? Nothing's going on. It's a problem. Actually, if I stop getting food all the time, then Mew will actually have the problem with food, and then I can make the pork chop farm. That's ideal. And then I'll have the byproduct of the leather like I wanted and the actual goal. That'll work, that's fine. The number one thing with story writing is just kind of creating a problem, and if you don't have a problem, make them realize they don't have a problem. Make them realize it was actually easy, and let them get cocky about it, and then fail something that is easy. Big brain. It is genuine. I am literally gonna just end up pulling that. That's what I'm going to do with the story. Because I don't have any problems. So, it's to a point where Mew's gonna get cocky about it. Because he's convinced, oh, this is all easy, this is all fine, I can do this as I please. Because you kinda can. And I don't even know if I can. Theoretically, and by all of my knowledge, I will die. But Mew doesn't know that. I almost drank all the tea. For once. Usually, I completely forget it exists at all. Okay, where's the land crossing here? There's a land crossing down there. We need to slowly starting down that way. Please, whoever sleeps all the time, please sleep. I think it's Caleb. Caleb, can you sleep? Caleb. Caleb. Can you sleep? Can you sleep? You're late. And you sleep. Hey! Phantom! Lovely. I know I have a bed on me. I finally keep a bed on me. I've been trying to. I finally did. Finally stole one and yoinked it in my inventory. If they don't sleep by the night really set in and becomes dark and I'm no longer yellow. Oh, goodness sake. I do not think there are. There's a baby. Lovely. I don't like that. Get me out of here. I do not think there are rabbits. If they are dead. They are very, very dead. So I move right along. Okay, I do need to sleep, though. I do need to sleep. Hey, what you got? What you got? 12.34, you are not as good as Slate. Genuinely, he's a 12.5. Slightly better than Ebony, if I remember correctly. I think Ebony might be a 12.3. Ooh, lovely, lovely area. Feels like classic Minecraft. Sleeping through the night, thank you! Thank you, kind sir. And the phantom that was following me could finally leave me alone. This is a glorious area. This is pretty. If I wasn't insistent on basing near the ancient city, I would have based there, genuinely. That is very glorious. But not a single rabbit we had. Not a one. Not a one. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. I want a rabbit foot. I want to at least get over here and learn if there are or are not rabbits. For me, there's a rabbit! Give me your foot! I want those toesies! Give me here. Come here. Come here. Come. You butt. Head. Thank you. You didn't drop one. You saw nothing. He's very carefully not making eye contact. Slay! There weren't any rabbit feet to be had. Please tell me there's more of the flower forest. Is that it? Can I look at things by biome for a second, pretty please? Biome. This is all flower forest. Fantastic. So we have this entire forest area to roam and try and see, perhaps attempt. Just that. I'm half tempted to get a cat and just have him sit by my bedside and AFK as I draw and figure out what I'm gonna do for actual magic and stuff. That is not. I'll take the rabbit to meat, but that is not what I need. I don't want to lose Slate, so I'm gonna have to just bring him around everywhere because I didn't remember to grab a lead. There we go. That's another rabbit head. Rabbit foot! We got one! Fantastic! We will take the time to go home and actually breed the horses up. I will actually do that, genuinely. I don't know if I feel safe enough to bring... How many rabbits have I killed? Did I beat the statistics? I did not beat my ability to say statistics. Rabbit, 7. So we did beat the odds. Barely so, but barely indeed. If I remember, we have a complete land bridge. If we come along here, and I can carefully jump along here to get back. Where do I need to go from here? I just need to get across the water. If we come down, there's a base there. Homestead of Homestead. There's a cute little cat. Oh goodness. Yeah, someone's here. Can I have frames? Okay, as long as I don't have it loaded, we're good. This is adorable. I love this base. Good lord, the sheep. The sheep. I think that's probably Grazier, because Grazier was up here, so I'm going to assume Grazier, that is Grazier's. Grazier, I think. That seems correct. Probably, mayhaps, perhaps. I think so. He is a lot of trader. What you got? Mini block, mini block. Mini the block. Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna have so much of this weirdly unloaded. And eventually one day I will get peeved about it enough that I will just take a day literally to do nothing but load in chunks. But for the moment, I do not care. I wish to get home, make some potions, breed my horses, and see if we can get a better horse. Theoretically, we can. But that is mere theoretics. And I'm amazed we actually managed to pull this off in the 2-ish hours. It is now over that time. And I'm probably going to end up going to bed a little bit late because it's still going to take time for 1, me to get back safely. 2, to breed up the peoples. After 3, making the potions. So 3 different things against my time clock. But they forget I have a slate. I have a clean slate right here. That's going to get me all the way back home. Very, very quickly. Hopefully. Perhaps. Mayhaps. Just mayhaps. But this is why I want a fast horse. Literally this exact purpose. Because Slate is a juggernaut. He's fantastic. He, she? I haven't decided. I haven't decided which one is. They just are. They just are horse. I almost want to say Slate's my mare. Ebony probably would normally be the mare. I feel like Slate's my mare. Probably. I'm talking like I know anything about horses. The most I know about horses is the magic of friendship. And that's about it. That's all I got for you. And you can get them in Stardew. Yep. I know. 2 things about horses. A friendship of magic? What? Yes, the friendship of magic, and probably Stardew? I haven't gotten far enough in Stardew or bothered with a horse yet. There's one save I have that I could have gotten a horse and went, no thanks. And never did. And then I had a mid-diagnosed ADHD and I went, I am playing this too much, I need to stop and uninstall the game. And I'm finally playing it again. I finally got my wedding! I've been courting Sebastian's. And my goal when I started the save was 1, court Sebastian, marry him. 2, if possible, I wanted to do my damnedest job in getting a winter 1, year 1 wedding. And I did actually manage to pull it off. Barely. Literally, the week before winter, I had got enough hearts with him that I could marry him. It wasn't even from a gift or anything. I just happened to talk to him one day and he finally gave me the 10th heart. I'm like, okay, thank you, achievement. Cool. And then I had to hastily look up. Okay, how do I get the pendant again? Oh yeah, right. That guy in the rain. Cool. Next day it's gonna be thunder. I know there's a time between when you actually propose and when you get married. How long is that? How do I plan for that? Apparently it's 3 days. So if you propose to somebody on the 1st, you'll get married on the 4th. So I had to propose on the 26th, so I could get married on the 1st. And I ended up having to log off on the 25th. I now, in order to avoid my spirals with Stardew, because ADHD, hyperfocus, yada yada yada, still working on it. I now have this tiny little notebook, and you can't read it, but it does say Stardew on the front. Like, there you go. You can see there's tiny handwriting there. And currently has 1 page, and it's just all the bundles I'm trying to do. So next time I don't have to rely on, I'm gonna hold the mermaid pendant in my hand and hopefully I'll remember that I need to propose to Sebastian on this day. Hopefully. I did, thankfully. I did. But there's some moments where I'm like, I need to do that. I forgot to do that. I need to do that. So I should have like most of the bundles done, and I don't. I have almost all of them done, but I have some small little things waiting in each of the bundles because I forgot I was supposed to do them. I don't have any of the quality parsnips. I don't have any of the quality melons. I was scrambling to get all the pumpkins, and I am 1 gold pumpkin short of the bundle. I have 4 gold star pumpkins. You need 5. So needless to say, I am peeved. I don't get angry. I don't get heavy angry about a lot of things. There are very few things that outright irk me. You will get the mildest of annoyances from me, and that's about all you're gonna get. I am currently having an annoyance with... I need another chest. For some reason, almost positive this is a bot. There's somebody who's been commenting on the second channel, the VOD channel, on one of the VODs. I'm like, oh, I made this thumbnail to replace one of your old videos. I'm like, this is completely unsolicited. Why did you think this was okay? And they keep trying to push, like, oh, come, let me know where I can DM you this thing. There's nothing on their YouTube page. They have it linked to an Instagram. There's not a thing on the Instagram. It's not following anybody. It's not posted anything. It doesn't have any followers. And based on the icon, I am for sure positive that this is, one, a bot, because every single comment has quotations at the front and end. This is not the YouTube thing. None of the other YouTube comments do this. It's not YouTube telling me this is what this person said. No, this is the actual comment. And their logo just looks like AI. It just does. It's one of those make me a logo with such and such thing in it. It just... that, or it has so many effects on it that it looks sloppily made. I cannot tell which it is. It is definitely one of them. Either way, I do not want that making thumbnails for me. I enjoy making my thumbnails. It is part of the process. This is one of the ones I look forward to. We're gonna make a swiftness potion in this, and then rabbit foot in that. Do I have gunpowder? I do. Okay. I'm gonna set a barrel. I have an empty shelf up here that I've been meaning to use. I want to put something over here at some point. I could put this one up there. Oh. Oh, good thing it finished. Okay, good thing. Good thing it did. Cool. Thank you. I would have been really upset if it didn't. I would have been more than upset. Okay, good thing it did. Good thing. Thank you. Pick up that. Thank you. Did I pick up? No. Why am I having the frames? What is this? Oh, there it is. Why is the frames? I have 4. Count them. 4 chunk render distance. I should not have the frames. This is unfair. Very, very unfair. Was it you that I threw? Yes. And then you get a piece of glowstone. And I need to repower you. And you get a piece of glowstone. Everyone gets a piece of glowstone. And I'm gonna move the sugar actually out of this one over to you. I already had golden carrots. Even better. I don't even remember where I got these from. I think someone gave them to me. And you get gunpowder. And you get gunpowder. So theoretically, from what I've been told, is the game bugs out a little bit when you toss a jump or sprint potion. I know when I was told about this, they were talking about sprint potions. I assume the same applies to a jumping, leaping potion. If you throw that onto a horse, it considers, when you're breeding the horse, the potion stats, the updated stats from the potion, to be the base stats for breeding. So therefore, you can make faster horses simply by applying a swiftness potion to them. So theoretically, I'm about to make a fantastic horse. Very, very theoretically, but nonetheless. I do not have another saddle. Saddle. Can we leave a saddle in chest? I didn't have the inventory for it, but I'm pretty sure we left a saddle in chest too. Probably. And if this horse is that good, we will switch out slates with iron. Okay, you two. Time to give me the greatest horse you ever did see. Did you? Okay, 12.5. 12.51. 13.26! Not a better jump height. Oh no, it's better than ebony. It's a 13! Okay, yes. Yes, you are. You are fantastic. You are going to be a fantastic little boy. Yes! It worked! It just works. It just works. Also, that little boy's probably gonna run around and sprint off on me, so we're just gonna make sure that was not happening. Pretty please, thank you. And I accidentally got hit with both the sprint and the speed, so that's great. We're just gonna make sure. Where's the child? Okay, child is also grey like slate, like the mama. What shall your name be? I kinda still want to name it neighbor, but I'm actually gonna use a rock. I'm gonna thumb through this little rock book. I am hella late to ending stream. I do not care. I have my horse. You know, we're gonna grab the big boy book. Where's my big boy book? This is the little book I've been showing. Here's the other book I have that I got at a big boy store. I don't even remember. Actually, I think I do know where I got that one. But that is a roadside attraction that would definitely dox me, so. Where? Whomst of. I want something that's pretty, but also fitting. Definitely not pyrite. You are not gold. You are not white. I might find the horse that I had on the first world as well. Perhaps. You are not ice. You are not. Rutalite. Pyrolusite. I could call him Pyro for short. Pyrochlor. Zinktite. Hematite? Kind of? Not really. There is magnetite. Romanechite? Something. Fiddle! Not chromite. Withite? No. Manganite? Kind of, not really. Trying to find one that would be fitting. Also, is it cold enough to open a damn window? Please. It's probably like 80 in this room. Please, can I know how it is outside? If it's under 80, we're good. It's 77! I'll take it. I will take it. I was probably correct in saying 80, because it barely feels any different than in here. Here's a witherite. That's not fitting, though. It's more white than gray. Malachite. You are not borax. I'm pretty sure one of my horses was howlite. It might have been howlite that I ended up with. Because there's a phase I really adored howlite. Do I have you literally next to me? Do I have this literally right here? I forgot about all the jewelry I have. Oh, I have a piece of amethyst. I have an amethyst necklace. Where's my howlite? There you are! I remember exactly where I got this. I should start wearing this again. I love this necklace. I have a little piece of howlite carved like a wolf. He's just a tiny little wolf guy. I love him. I have so many necklaces bunched up in here, and that was still tangled with many others. I have so many in here. I keep hitting the boom arm because I'm trying to get them all back in this tiny little drawer. Let me close this. Thank you. I love howlite, though. Kind of nice, high up there. Oh, there's Celestine. Not gypsum. That'd be a white coat. I just want a fitting rock to name this little child. By the time I pick a name, he's gonna be grown up. Not Monzonite. That sounds like not a Pokemon name, that sounds like a Digimon name. Vivinite? It was named after a English meteorologist, I can tell you that. Blue ochre. Yeah, it looks pretty. The bluish white, nah. I'm trying to find Gordite, Silicate, Quartz. It's the gems, the silicates that I usually end up going for with names, because they end up being more name-like a lot of the time. Or what you'd expect out of a name. Like this Lazarite. Sodalite. Naturalite. That is not a good one, though. That is completely white. Serpentine. Talc. Not talc. Talc is almost there. Not really. Not a dark enough color. Biotite? It's colorless. Not too bad. Oh. There we go. It's not too bad. It's too dark, though, is the problem. That is the trouble I'm having here. I might need to go for mineral. I'm trying to go for something pretty, but I might just need a mineral. It's too bright. I need just a dark, just a gray. I just need a gray of a rock. I just need the absolute grayest rock you ever did see. You do not look gray. You look green. Some of these will say they're colors. It's like, oh, this is white to gray, and that's a picture of a green rock. It might just be the picture quality, though. No, none of these. None of these. None of these. None of them. This is... The problem is the go-to gray coat name I have, I've already taken for Slate. Slate is a beautiful gray. I don't want to name him Cole. I don't want to name him Cole. He's my speedy boy. I don't... There we go. Ingenious rocks. I can't speak. Don't worry about it. And a Northite. A Northosite. I can't pronounce that, so it's not going to be good. I just wish for a good rock that I can name this fella. Something that is... I could name him Basalt. He's not dark enough color for Basalt, though. I could name him Pumice. Trachyte? Trachyte? Trachysite? Off-white gray. Could be trachite. I don't want to... You're not obsidian. You're not. I have obsidian. You are not an obsidian color. I have obsidian sitting right here. That is not obsidian. You are not an obsidian color. Volcanic Balm. Yep, that is a beautiful rock. Genesis, I could... There's a cat at my door. There's Slate! I found Slate! But that's not what we're going for either. I already have Slate. I just wish for a nice rock. That is not stone. I'm not naming him stone. Is the last, 20 minutes of this gonna be me looking for a rock? Yeah. Do I care? Kinda. I just want to name him. Siltstone. It's not too different from Slate. Gray Siltstone. Because Slate's also darker, so my mind's been made up of I'm okay with it being a little dark. Gray to beige. Mudstone. I don't want to name him Mudstone. Limestone. You are not a limestone. Chalk. Marl. Marl. They have a picture of a green marl, but it comes in various colors. I could have named him Rock Salt. Ironstone, banded ironstone, nodules. Oofa. Church. Iron meteorite. I made it to the end of the book. I'm gonna scroll back and forth until I find something. I went back, ended up back on the Romanchite. Romanechite? I'm okay with calling him Romanechite. Romane? Alright. Forvo, where are you? Forvo, tell me how to say the word that I need to say. Forvo. Forvo, thank you. Romanechite. With C-H-I-T. How to pronounce... Forvo had nothing for me, by the way. Romanechite. Cat, you've been in here for 2 seconds. Go sit your butt down. Go sit. Wait. Your butt down. Go lay down. Thank you. Romanechite. Unlock pronunciation by watching a short ad. Are you kidding me? Like, literally. I just want to learn how am I supposed to say this? Romanechite. Romanech. Okay. Thank you, Wikipedia. I didn't get a actual thing telling me what to do. It just said Romanechite. So I'm confused about it. Okay. I have more than enough of, like, everything. I'm gonna quickly make up in Ianville. And we are going to name these boys before we leave for the night, because I really want to. Well, that's not what I want to do. Where did... Yes. Where did I put the... I guess right here. I'll have a better spot for you. Romanechite. I don't have the fancy character there is, and thing... accent. There is an accent over the E. I don't have that. Romanechite. And then we have Slate. And Ebony. And unfortunately, Slate is going to get downgraded to Iron. And hopefully I don't name any of these bad boys incorrectly. Romanechite. You. Thank you. And then you are Ebony. And then you are Slate. And Slate, you are going to be changed over to an Iron. And then once Romanech grows up, then I will give him his diamond horse armor. He's going to be my new favorite bad boy. And I might try and get more horses so I can get even better horses, hopefully. Next time I find a 12, I'm gonna grab him. Or I might just run around with Romanechite and a couple potions and just start breeding and see if I can get something better. Perhaps. I will have to drag Romanechite back that way. So I might just go around, tame a horse, bring it back, see if I can get anything out of that. If not, I will yeet them. But that will be for another day. Surprised most of us are still on. We will leave that off here then. That'll be it. I will still do... We're still gonna do the Twitch exclusive stream Thursday and do a Saturday stream. But I'm going to change up the schedule. I will make a reminder of this Sunday night. And probably I'll do another reminder Thursday, so we know next week. I'll do a reminder Thursday and Sunday that we're going to go back to Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday streams. Saturday, Sunday, we'll be doing stuff like this on this SMP or that SMP, or if I feel like it, we'll be doing a challenge of some sort. Probably not. Mostly doing SMP work right now, so I can get stuff done. And then Wednesdays will be Twitch exclusive Skyrim streams. Or Twitch exclusive this thing, that thing, whatever I feel like playing. So that'll be it. Thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.